Hi everyone, welcome to Joshiva's How to Product, the seventh episode. Today we'll be talking about product ownership in the scientific context. And to kick off this session, I have with me Sujit, who is a product owner at the Welcome Sangha Institute, and we'll be having a very deep dive conversation into product management, product ownership in the scientific environment, talking about his experiences, talking about the challenges, the skill set he uses, and how this is different from the industrial context. So, join me in welcoming Sujit. Thank you for joining
Good
us
morning.
today. Good morning. How are you?
Good, doing good. Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, the way we get this started is just to get to know a little bit more about you, who you are, basically anything you
Sure.
want to share. We don't want to know your bank account details, but that
Yeah,
would be great as well. So if you could throw in a little bit of a fun fact about you too, that would help.
sure. Thank you for having me on this vlog today. If I talk about myself, I started my career as a business analyst, as an agile business analyst, after doing my master's in computer science, and I have been fortunate enough to start my career in an agile work setup from the very beginning of my career. And during this time, I got to understand, learn, and have the first hands on experience on Agile, understanding of what business analysis is, what are the various streams within business analysis. And during this course of time, I did, you know, ec- identify the various other pathways that stream out of business analysis have origins, not necessarily, but definitely to some extent within business analysis, such as product management, pathways such as product ownership, and that's where I was more inclined to grow in product management side of the career. And I worked as a product manager after having worked for almost 5, 6 years as a business analyst. I continued my career progression in product management, and it's been a decade that I have been working in Agile across these two different roles within the Agile framework. Uh, I have recently moved to the UK for this particular role that I am working in with uh, Welcome Genome Campus,
Yeah.
and this is a completely new field and a background for me which requires strong understanding of product management.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. I mean, you've had a lot of experience in business analysis and then moving on to product management. Oof. What would you say the transition was like moving from business analysis where I know there are some overlap between the both fields, but how was the transition for you?
Well, the overlapping aspect, as you've said, has
Yeah.
always been a topic of controversy in our community, I would say, in the product management and business analysis community.
Yeah.
However, it vastly depends on the nature of the organization that you work with.
Yeah.
The roles and responsibility uh, depend again on the nature, the size of the team, not only the team in that matter, the size of the organization that you're working with, whether
Yeah.
you're working with a startup firm with a small team, or you're
Mm.
working with a world-class organization with thousands of employees. So the context always differs. However, there is certainly an overlap.
Mm.
The transition, if you ask, of into product management from business analysis was a quite obvious one for me because I was more inclined towards designing, contributing, and in creative ways in defining and architecturing products, new products.
Mm.
And so it was not a very complex decision for me to see and to understand where I want to go
Yeah.
uh, with my career aspirations, wherein I wanted to build and contribute to defining new products and product strategies for
Yep.
organizations that I'm working with.
Wow, that sounds very great. I mean, there are a lot of theories around what the difference between product management and business analysis is. So, in your experience and from your own opinion, right, what do you think the fine line between business analysis and product management is? Where do you draw the line to say this is business analysis responsibility and that is product management responsibility?
Well, again, that would be anything that I say will be my personal opinion here.
Absolutely.
Well, if you happen to search on the internet for these same keywords, you will find a number of suggestions and opinions on the internet. From my personal experience, as I said, the nature of the organization that you work with defines your responsibilities
Mm,
within that particular role and how much of the overlap exists. However, because I have had the opportunity to work in an agile framework and in organizations that were either uh, had achieved a level of maturity
yeah.
in agile
Hmm.
or were moving, had the immense intent to move towards agile,
Yeah.
that gave me a good foundation to understand the difference between business analysis and product management roles. Uh, the key difference, I would say, that a business analyst within an agile environment, as you say, an agile business analyst, is a person who works very closely with the development team or the
Mm,
agile team. The agile team could follow Scrum or Kanban approaches depending on what the organization prefers or sees benefit in. The business analyst is closely knitted with the agile development team, wherein he helps define the scope, clarify the requirements to move
mm,
further details, identify technical debts, technical, non-functional, functional requirements, etc.,
mhm.
and provide that information in a more refined way to the developers, which is then picked up by the development team. For product management roles, such as a product owner, though the product owner, like myself, may work with the development team, but the product
Yeah.
owner is more focused on the product vision, the product roadmap, the product strategy, aspects of what needs to move into the next iterations of development. So these are the various aspects that a product owner is focused on, and that moves more to a bird's eye view as you move towards product management in the order of how these roles are generally organized within an
Mm,
agile or lean environment. So
wow.
these are the key focus differences, I would say, that differ, that cause the difference.
That sounds really fantastic because again, it is a thing of perspective and based on your experience, these are like the clear distinctions between those two. And following what you said, yes, if I go on the internet, you see a ton of what people think the differences are. But I think from your perspective, being that you've worked in both roles, offers you a more unique vantage point to seeing the clear distinction between these two roles. And it does make a lot of sense to me because you're looking at scoping, requirements, gathering, a requirement elicitation as we call it, whether
Yes.
and then distinguishing between functional and non-functional requirement, all of those process optimization within the scope of the business analyst. And then you have the product vision, the strategization of the product, the backlog management, the roadmaps and all that between within the product management scope. But you mentioned two keywords, and I know a lot of people are dying to know the difference between a product manager now and a product owner. So there are a lot of things to be said in between those two roles, but I just want to hear from your perspective again, in your opinion and from your experience, what do you think the difference is between product owner and product manager?
Well, now this understanding of a product owner and a product manager, my understanding has been shaped through my personal experience as well as a few learnings that I've done in the due course of my career. For example, some certifications that I worked in.
Yeah.
So one of the key certifications that I did was Scaled Agile Framework, as we call it, the SAFe 5.0 certification for product owner, product manager, which actually helped clear this understanding further for me. Um, and From my perspective, as I said, as it is for a business analyst and a product owner, the focus of responsibilities is different. Similar is the case within the product management realm for a product owner and a product manager, wherein in the previous explanation that I was saying, a product owner is responsible for backlog, for defining the roadmap for the product team, for the agile development teams,
Mm.
wherein the product owner works closely, at many times works closely with the business analyst of a particular agile team. And a product owner may not be responsible for a single agile development team, but for multiple teams uh, relating uh, that fall within the agile release train of that sense, if that makes sense to you. However, a product manager works closely with the product owner to push the information downstream of the product strategy, where the
Mm.
product is, what are the product objectives, business strategy, business objectives, what are the benefits that the product features or vision will bring, what are the short term and the long term vision um,
Mhm.
of the product as such, and products that for that matter, not a single product but multiple products in many cases, and
Yeah.
organizations that you work with. Um, so that's where the product manager sits, who works in conjunction with the product owner. But the product manager, in general, in an agile, more mature agile environment, provides the direction uh, on what a product will look like
Yeah.
in few years down the line, uh, considering all the various market, business, and strategic objectives.
Right. Yeah. I mean, your last line just nailed it for me. Talking about the business, the market, the strategic objectives that add value to just not just your business, but even looking at your market positioning in that industry, I think falls within the product manager role. I totally agree with your explanation, and I feel a lot more visibility needs to be made on what a product owner does versus what a product manager does. I know there are overlaps. The product
Yes,
manager could literally do what a product owner does, but if you
yes,
have been trained to be a product owner, then you do not have the full view or the vista to understand the full extent of what a product manager should be doing in a business. And you keep hearing things like the product manager is on a road to becoming a CEO because of how much information and how much moving parts they hold together as far as the product is concerned, which makes a lot of sense. But now I want to water it down a little bit. I want to bring down the tension.
yeah.
So, uh, when you're not working, what do you do if you're not working, like doing product ownership? Do you play golf?
Yeah. No, my personal hobbies, if I'm not working, is one. Uh, I'm quite a career focused individual. Apart from my own uh, personal life,
Yeah.
my focus is generally always on my career, where I see how I can grow in my role, how I can improve myself. In the past, I've taken up many ventures myself to extend my potential
Mm.
in my own, I would say, capacity.
Yeah.
And if I'm not working, or if I'm not bogged down with the mundane family responsibilities and and chores that you need to take care of,
Yeah.
I'm either reading a few books on self-improvement,
Mm.
books on that relate to my area of work, such as product management.
Mhm.
And I have a keen interest in reading and seeing uh, both uh, um, mythological stories, specifically Indian mythological stories, and and information that relate to space and
Wow.
technology. So
Wow.
these are my keen interests that I follow. Um, Basketball, if you talk about sports, where as you mentioned, golf, I've not had a chance to play golf yet, but I would like to do that. However, basketball is one of my favorite sports that I play myself. So yeah.
Wow. Amazing. I mean, for somebody who is very career focused, it's only right to have you read books about your career, so that's not surprising at all. But the mythological part is what is surprising and quite interesting. Wow. Um, yeah, that sounds very good. Okay, bringing it back into the context of our discussion
Mm,
today.
mm.
Have you always known that you were going to become a product manager, a product owner, or is something you just stumbled into or something like that?
Well, just in the beginning of the conversation, when I was describing my academic background,
Yeah.
I have had a master's in computer science, so definitely not. I did not venture out into the professional world with the idea of being a product manager. But as and when I studied for my master's, I did realize that I have a keen interest through various projects and last semester projects that you have in your master's degree or graduation, where you have to work on something that you can build.
Yeah.
So I was more keen towards database management for my personal interest, as well as defining what the product should be, what it should have, how does it add value to the customers, who are
Mm,
the customers, etc. So I was more keen on those aspects just out of curiosity and interest that I developed over time in doing so. So when it came to choose career paths, I did then choose what interested me more, um, uh, which may have been a bit different from what I studied for. However,
yeah.
that definitely helped, I would say, that background, that academic background, and 5 years of education in computer science, which included 3 years of graduation and 2 years of masters,
Mm,
did definitely give me a lot of boost in understanding the, I would say, the arena of
yeah.
product management, business analysis, how things are interlinked, making the connections, understanding the connections, and understanding what needs to be delivered and what needs to be delivered right.
Yeah.
This did definitely help. So yes, to answer your question, no, I never thought of becoming a product manager, but that is something that I explored on the way, and since then I have had this keen interest in growing this progression.
Wow. And since when you found yourself sort of really being reeled into that line, what kind of certifications? I know you mentioned something around scaled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what other kind of certifications did you started acquiring in order to improve your standing in product management and
Yeah,
ownership?
sure. So I would like to say this, Joshua, on the certification aspect, though I hold a couple of them,
Yeah.
I would say. But the journey of the certification, from my point of view, is more important,
Mm,
and the intent of why you want to do the certification is more important.
right.
If you intend to do a certification for career change or career growth, it is important that you understand that you're doing it for a career change and a career growth, not to just get a job.
Right.
Uh, and in the due course, what you will learn is more important. So, if for your viewers, if I could just influence them and encourage them to take up certifications, but at the same time not to get disheartened by not being able to accomplish the certification
Mm,
or achieve the certification objectives. I would say the journey is more important. However, to your question, I would say I did prepare for the IIBAs International Institute of Business Analysis certification called as CBAP. Uh,
Mm,
I prepared for that, and that did take so that encouraged me to read more
mm,
about business analysis.
a lot.
There are, yeah, the more of because I was working as a business analyst at that point in time.
Wow.
I did definitely read a lot about the BABOK from the
Mm,
BABOK,
yeah.
which is Business Analysis Body of Knowledge. There are various versions. I think the latest one is around 6 or 7. I'm not sure, but
Wow.
that definitely gives you great understanding of what business analysis is and what are the various challenges that you may come across and how to
Mm,
manage those. There are if I could just recommend few books, there are various books as well which I encountered during this course of certification, which was again from an institute which is a Chartered Institute of Information Technology in the UK, BCS,
wow.
and it has a wonderful book on business analysis techniques, which talks about all the techniques that a business analyst should know of.
Mm,
And post that, as I progressed more in the product management world,
yeah.
I did acquire the SAFe, which is a scaled agile framework organization,
Mm,
and it provides certifications in scaled agile, lean and scaled agile, um, for various lines of agile and agile tech, and people working in agile. I
mm-hmm.
have acquired the certification in product owner, product manager, SAFe 5.0,
Wow.
which is where I was telling you that that did definitely help clear the picture about what is the difference and what are the areas of focus and responsibilities of product owner and a product manager.
Mm, mm. Wow. That sounds like a lot. I mean, if you could also give some links to that, I'll probably add that to the description of the podcast for whoever is interested to have a look into them. So yeah, bringing it home now to you working as a product owner in the scientific context. First off, how different is it from working in the industry, and what kind of challenges does that present as well, working in this kind of context that is not very industry or commercial focused?
Yeah. Well, um, so this has been my first exposure to the scientific world of uh, genome research, I would say,
Mm,
for that matter. And the key aspect that I was looking for my own own growth opportunities and the organization that I joined was in product ownership or product management space, wherein in the scientific world, because of the complexities that are part of the whole scientific arena as
mm,
such, I would say there are various types of research that are carried on. Um, for example, within the same lab, there are various processes followed within a same scientific laboratory to to perform genome research,
yeah.
DNA sequencing for that matter, which is one of the key aspects of Wellcome Genome Institute that I work with, and it has achieved great heights in identifying genome and the genome research in itself. So when we talk about the scientific world and the scale of it, you can imagine being every hour there is research and sequencing
Mm,
of the various genes and
yeah.
DNAs, samples of all the living organisms on this planet being carried on to be able to support not only for a particular to support this research, not only for uh, you know samples coming in from living organisms from a small area,
Yeah.
but not restricted to that small area or town, but to the whole country and then to
Mm,
the whole continent and various continents across the world. There is a big scale of work that is involved, and to be able to do this at best, you need digital environment and
Yes.
digital platforms to support it. You need infrastructure for warehouses, you need infrastructure for databases, you need infrastructure for AI, you need infrastructure for cybersecurity, etc. In that, I work very closely with a software development group within the organization that
Right.
works, that is just one of the many software development groups that
Mm-hmm.
exist within the organization, catering to the various parts
Needs.
of the scientific research
Yeah.
aspect. And coming to your question, how it is different and how complex it is that this gave me an insight on how big and complex systems can be,
Hmm. Yeah.
and that too, not one system catering to the need of a particular, the whole research aspect, but multiple systems working in conjunction with
Yeah.
each other to, and to cater the science that is done within the institute.
Mm-hmm.
So at times, at this point, I have been working across with uh, 10 different software products that
Wow.
cater the various aspects of scientific research. And
Wow.
my key responsibility in doing so is to ensure that the right information is taken from the people, our customers, who
Yeah.
are working with on the ground with the samples, performing
Yes.
sequencing to the development team, not only being able to liaise that, but at the same time also being able to prioritize and organize based on what the business strategy is. One key aspect in all of this, and to give a better context of how my work is influenced, I would say, is to understand the context of where we are. So
Yeah.
once you understand the context of where you are, for example, my context is where I work with internal systems.
Yeah.
There may be a product owner who works with systems that influence external users,
Yes.
maybe a mobile app product owner or
Mm.
product manager. And then there are systems that are built for business to businesses rather than business to consumers.
Yeah.
There are systems built from business to businesses. Sorry. Yeah, so of that sort. So my context is definitely internal, and I work as a product owner to cater to defining the product backlog,
Mm-hmm.
prioritizing the product backlog of these multiple products. So that
Yeah.
was a massive challenge to overcome, and which is something I'm continuously trying to do. Uh, and
Definitely.
yeah, and keep everybody happy in the due course.
Yes. I have lots of questions around that because one is you have 10 products that you're looking at in your portfolio. How do you manage expectations of your multiple various stakeholders? Because I assume that there'll also be overlap, of course, between stakeholders having interest on multiple software. So, like a many to many relationship between your software products in the portfolio and the stakeholders, the end users. That's one. The prioritization metric. What kind of prioritization metric do you use? So maybe we just stick to these first two questions. How do you manage each person's expectations, and how do you prioritize across all this 10 software products? Because I would assume your backlog would be massive if you have conjoined all of them into one backlog, or you have separate backlogs, then that makes the prioritization a bit tricky and maintaining those backlogs could be tedious. So I'll just let the ball roll in your court.
Yeah, 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 sure. So, when I mentioned 10 different products, in my mind, I was trying to explain that at the same time, how many systems are at play at the same time and how they need to interact. Technically, if you look at those systems, they may be, I would say, on an average, they may be five softwares that provide the capability of those 10
Mm.
different products. Uh,
Right.
if you try to understand that. So there are
Mm.
technically looking at it as five different softwares, but providing capability for 10
For
different product or project lines within the
ah,
scientific research world,
awesome.
um, which definitely is complex in itself,
Yeah.
nonetheless has a huge backlog. Coming to a question on how do I prioritize and what prioritization approaches I adopt,
Yeah.
um, is one important aspect in prioritization is definitely to remember and understand the value being
Mm.
delivered. So my key focus is always on identifying what value is being driven for a particular requirement from the stakeholders.
Mm.
And when I'm able to define that value, I need to understand what is the complexity of understanding that value. Now, to your question, there could be 10 different answers depending
Hmm.
on what 10 different books you're reading, right?
Yes.
But I would just try to boil it down to a simple statement, which then has its own level of details and granularity as you venture into it. The basic understanding that you need to have in your mind is what is the complexity and value metrics for your product.
Hmm.
If it is high complex and high value, does that take precedence over something which is less complex and
High
high
value.
value?
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
understand?
Yeah.
So that's a picture that you need to build in your mind to make complex things simpler from my point of view.
Hmm.
And once you are able to do that, you are able to navigate through these various conflicting requirements, conflicting expectations, and requirements, and complex requirements, and easy requirements, etc., and define your product roadmap. The second important aspect, again, when you define, just to go back on that statement and just to give you some insight on what I meant when I said granularity, I meant what is value for you, what is value for your organization, what is value for the team that you're working with.
Yeah.
Now, there is no one definition for value. You will have to identify this definition again based on the context of what kind of systems you're building, what organization you're in, what kind of customers you're serving, whether it is internal, external, etc.
Yeah.
So you can find many, and one of the key that I can say that has helped me understand this again from the learnings that I had was the shortest weighted job first approach. So this is one of the approach that you can identify and read about on SAFE,
Okay.
the SAFE website, and all of these resources are for free.
Wow.
And you can read about it, you can understand it more, and then come up with your own metrics. And you don't need to follow one particular approach of prioritization. You can mix and match, or you can define your own. It does not need to be
Yeah.
textbook driven for that
True.
matter.
True.
And, um, and the second point that I was trying to explain to you was on uh, how we then define what what forms the backlog, right? What goes into the backlog. So what
Mm.
you need to do then, or what I do is, when I say you, I mean anybody who's a
Yeah.
product owner and view watching your podcast. I would
Absolutely.
say that what you need to do is you need to filter it down to visibility of how far visible things are. Is it do you have a roadmap for 1 month? Do you have a roadmap for 2 months down the line? You have a roadmap for 6 months down the line, or 1 year down the line. So you need to filter that out. Once you're able to do that, identify the value. The most value driven approach can be identified for your own stakeholders, and then you can prioritize, create your own backlog, refine the backlogs with your development team over and over again.
Mm.
Include your stakeholders in these refinement sessions.
Right.
If you know about the refinement sessions and ceremonies in Agile, and if your team is following Agile, even if it is not following, you can simply pull in your development team and your stakeholders into the same room and help them understand the value on what they are working from their point of view. So this definitely helps in defining a better value driven backlog.
Again, that was superb, and I have 1,000 questions to ask you because one thing you said, which strikes me very, very